Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. I have been a writer really all of my life, and as Ralphie said, we've traveled in the same circles without knowing it. Tonight I'm here as a poet, but I also write essays and memoir pieces. I currently have a blog called Baltimore Black Woman. I started it because I'm a native Baltimorean and I love my city. Sometimes I write letters to the editor in the newspaper as well, The Sun, our only paper. And I've had the pleasure of meeting David Simon a couple of times. I had the enormous pleasure of writing to and receiving a lovely response from Dan Rodericks. And I recently had the not so fun task of sparring with David Zorowik over a column he wrote about Mayor Pugh and the police department and those kind of things. So without further ado, I'm going to read my poem, You Don't Know Baltimore Like I Do, which was written in February in response to Mr. Zorowik. The Baltimore scene in The Wire and Homicide is not the Baltimore of my youth. The Baltimore scene in 2015, after the death of Freddie Gray, is not my Baltimore either. Where you see crime and grime and defeat in people's hardened hearts and in the black eyes of decrepit, rotting houses and empty lots, I carry within my soft heart the vivid memory of a time when all those houses stood tall and proud, filled with families, sounds of laughter and love, fussing and fighting, and smells of food cooking, spilling and wafting from open doors and windows. Plenty of corner stores selling fresh fruit and produce, where the owners kept your family's credit in big handwritten ledgers. That store at Monroe and Mosier Street with the neon arrow used to be Burkham's Grocery. They ground the beef fresh for you at the meat counter in the back. Once when I was little, I ate maraschino cherries out of a jar I picked up off the shelf. Grandma was mad. She had to buy that jar, and I never opened another one in a store again. See that empty storefront at the corner of Fulton and Riggs Avenue, across from the CME church? I remember my daily after-school stops to that store with my friends to buy root beer barrel candy and baseball cards and glittery little girl rings for 5 cents. And that CME church was known then as the colored, now Christian, Methodist Episcopal Church. I would head on down Riggs Avenue to my grandma's house on Payson Street. And after our homework was done, we'd meet up outside and play step ball, jacks, or marbles, or ride up and down the street on our bikes, or go skating on our Union number 5s until we were called in for dinner. On summer days, we eagerly awaited the good humor trucks or small carnival rides brought in on the back of a pickup truck, or horse rides provided by Arabers. My aunt or my grandma would walk us up to branch 17 of the Enid Pratt Library at Pennsylvania and North Avenue for story hour and a pile of books to bring home and read. Further along Pennsylvania Avenue was the Avenue, home to the Royal Theater, where so many black musicians and comedians came to play. I used to go with my cousins to Tommy Tucker's to buy handkerchiefs and stinky perfume, I think it was called Blue Waltz, as presents for my family at Christmas time. But the '68 riots after MLK was killed destroyed Pennsylvania Avenue, and the spot where the Royal used to be is now commemorated with a sad little marquee announcing community events and a bronze statue of Billie Holiday standing nearby. On Sundays, we sometimes walked, sometimes rode up Lafayette Avenue to church. So many of the houses up near Carey Street had gleaming brass handrails alongside their clean white marble steps. And over on Bloom Street at my great-grandparents' house, I'd hum, "Here Comes the Bride," as the nuns from St. Peter Clavers would walk 2 by 2 down the street. My first home, the Carver Apartments on Division Street, is now another burnt-out shell, even though it was on the National Historic Registry. Before it became my first home, it served as a Catholic orphanage. Yet as an apartment building, it retained the cavernous and odd-angled hallways and a courtyard in its midst. The careless owner charged with restoring it allowed it to burn down instead. But in the shell of the building, I can still see where my mother would hang out her laundry on a clothesline strung between our window and a neighbor's. I even remember the time when my grandfather, my youngest aunt, and I walked past a house off Fulton Avenue and Druid Park Lake Drive, where a memorial to Freddie Gray now sits. We were on our way home from a carnival where we got silly-faced clowns that danced from a string on a stick and melting ice cream running down our arms. So don't try to tell me that how broken Baltimore is, because I remember when it wasn't. Thank you. My final poem is a new one that I have just posted on my blog, BaltimoreBlackWoman.com. I have no paper books to show, but I have that. And this one is called The Fringe Dweller. I'm having trouble with my glasses here, so I'm having to hold this paper out too far. The Fringe Dweller. You know this type. The girl who won't raise her hand to answer a question in class, even though she knows the answer, hands down. The awkward kid who can't throw and can't catch a pass and gets picked last, no matter what team it is. The girl seated at the kitchen table for dinner who silently talks to God while everyone else at the table is talking to each other. The teen who will play that piano or guitar for hours, but will get up and walk away when someone else is watching. You think she's shy. You think she just doesn't believe in herself. If she would just. I am the fringe dweller. I'm not afraid to dip my toes into the waters, mud holes, and swamps of life. It's just that I invariably fall in head first. And after nearly drowning in the middle of the lake, or gasping for air as I climb out of the mud hole, or pushing and cutting my way out of the swampland, I want nothing more than to tell the tales of how I got over the water, how I knocked the mud off me, how I wrestled that alligator while I was in the swampland, all while sitting on the porch in my rocking chair, laughing in the face of life and death. Thank you.
Here for Jackie Oldham. think you and Sister Peggy would have a lot to talk about.